Disclaimer, JackFed's content is not meant to replace the actual viewing experience of watching RuPaul's Drag Race. The videos discuss the content of the show, but they don't nearly make as much sense without the context of watching the episode. You can watch season 15 of Drag Race on MTV or WoW Presents Plus if you're outside the US. After this episode of Drag Race, I'm just so happy because it really feels like we are back in business. Last week I said with the 90-minute episodes coming back, we were really returning to form and we're gonna get some really good episodes of Drag Race, and I think that's extremely true here too. There's some really good drama this episode, a lot of really cool nuances between this top 6. I think the commentary in this episode is really of the time, which is crazy because they filmed it a year ago. And not to mention, I feel like this may be the best Rusical, my favorite. I don't really know yet. It's still very early. If you've seen my past ranking for the Rusicals, you know that Madonna the Rusical is my favorite, and I think that the parodies of other musicals are kind of hit or miss. Things like Trump the Rusical, it's trying to be half Grease and then half Trump commentary, and it just didn't really work. But others like Moulin Rouge or Rats, those knocked it out of the park, and I think Wig Loose really fits in there. And the thing is, I'm not really a big fan of the actual Footloose. I think the concept is just okay and the execution is okay, but honestly, it makes way more sense to do something like this, and I can see Wig Loose being an actual musical. The idea of drag being outlawed and then people meeting in secret in order to practice their art, obviously it's rooted in a lot of real laws that are taking place currently and laws that we've had to deal with in the past, but just that concept for a musical itself, I would pay to be in that front row. It just fits so well for a concept, honestly more so than outlawing dance. So I think writing wise, it's the best parody that they've done, and it really hit home for me. And beyond just the concept, I don't know what it is about season 14 and 15 and their musicals, but they're just like so catchy. Maybe it's because they're taking influence from musicals that really fit Drag Race's vibe, or maybe they're just really refining their craft. Regardless, I've really been enjoying the music recently. And beyond the concept, the writing, the music, I think everyone just gave such a good performance here. And no offense to past musicals, but these really feel like actual performances. What I love about Drag Race musicals is that it's always so camp. People really ham it up, but there's so many cuts here that cut to queens just actually emoting and acting, and it feels a lot more theater. Like when Lucy's performing and it cuts to Anitra just looking so proud of her, I really see a mom being proud of her child, and I don't really see that a lot on Drag Race. The camp overacting, it has its place. It's normally really entertaining, but here it just feels really special. And jumping back to the writing, a common critique of musicals is that it feels like parts are really lopsided. Although I don't think that a Tuck or a Christian could have really won the challenge, I don't think that their roles were written so small that they couldn't succeed at all. And for the rest of the roles, I think they're all written exceptionally well. I didn't really peg Anitra's character as a winning role, but the way that she played it, it completely convinced me. And finally, just like with season 14, I think the production for these musicals has really jumped up a lot. I love that they're doing multiple takes with camera angles on stage. It just makes it so much more dynamic. I've probably watched this musical about 5 times now just to see how much I enjoy it, and I've never been bored a single time. It's definitely a top 5 musical at the least, and it may rise up to number 1. I just don't know quite yet. Before we get into the drama of the episode, I just want to touch on the choreography section really quick. This whole section was very interesting to me. The choreography sections are always really interesting to dissect the queens and how they work with other people and under pressure. It also often sets up placements for the episode and who to watch out for, but because everyone did so good here, it didn't really do that. So I think we just got a good dive into Mistress and Anitra's personalities the most, and also tripling down on the Lucy edit that we're gonna talk about right now. Jesus Christ, this edit won't let her breathe, while at the same time it's kind of playing her up and playing down Mistress and Lux. It's really weird, and I think it's because a lot of the nuances of how this cast is kind of functioning together is blending into the edit. It comes back to how conflict has been edited in recent seasons. Like last season with Daya and Jasmine, no one was really in the right or in the wrong. I guess Daya was going in a little harder, but a lot of people were defending her, saying that she was just trying to make good TV. And I really think that's what Mistress is trying to do here too, but I just don't think it's really going the same way. Like I've been saying, this is just Mistress's personality trying to poke at people just to annoy them, but at the same time, it's all in good fun. But she starts to drop this side a little more when she doesn't agree with how people are acting, and that's true with Lucy. I do think that Lucy was having fun in the competition, and they really haven't been showing that side, but I think the way that she acted for the cameras, it's a way that Mistress didn't really agree with, so that's why Mistress calls her out for not really being real, not in a way to try and start a fight or get a rise out of Lucy, but that's just kind of what it devolved into. So honestly, I think it just comes down to the fact that they don't really see eye to eye on how to act on camera. Everyone has a shift in personality, especially when the cameras are on, and those personalities are often not really going to mesh well. But even if Mistress was trying to make light of the situation in some ways, it still hit home for Lucy, and I want to acknowledge that. They're both facing way too much negativity. No one's really right or wrong in the situation. there's no real right or wrong answers either. They just didn't see eye to eye on things when they were in a competition setting, but this was filmed so long ago. This whole situation is really not worth the energy of calling someone a bully or calling someone fake, so let's just try to move on. The edit hasn't really been kind to Lucy in a lot of other ways. Going back to the choreography, she got up there and said, "Oh, I know how to do choreography, I can pick it up really fast." And then for the next minute, it shows her struggling and saying that her moves are really white. And like I said, everyone did really good in the challenge, so there wasn't really a point to showcase this unless they just wanted to further push this whole storyline that they have for Lucy. Which then brings me to the most iconic part of the episode: who should go home and why. This is one of the moments on Drag Race that I think has remained consistently entertaining until today. Everyone has to say a name, and even if it seems like a lot of the cast are best friends, a lot of emotions come out here, and it's pretty iconic. Human to human, I do feel bad for the queens who are picked, but it's just such an easy TV moment, and I really do enjoy it. So the question starts off with Lucy, and Lucy tries to play it fair saying Selena because Selena has the worst track record. But Selena takes offense to this because earlier Lucy was crying on her shoulder saying how much she didn't really like Mistress or Lux. I understand why Lucy said Selena's name because unfortunately it was the safest choice to say, but I also understand why Selena wanted her to say a different name. I haven't really been talking about Untucked in these videos because I don't really find myself watching them right away after the episode, but after this question I was really invested and I wanted to see them hash it out. So when Selena is backstage saying, "Lucy, you don't like Lux or Mistress, call it out," it's coming from a lot of emotion but a lot of truth. It was really interesting to watch, and that just comes back to how real a lot of the emotions came out in this episode. I almost feel bad talking about it, but I hope I'm providing a neutral enough perspective. Coming back to the original point about Lucy's pick, even though Selena unfortunately was the most obvious choice, they still played it up like Lucy was really in the wrong. But like every queen says, when you get into Untucked after this question, you have to pick a name, or else it gets really awkward like it did with Olivia on season 13.
Olivia is just standing there, silent. RuPaul's looking at her, also silent.
As for every other choice, Anitra duck-walked the question.
I tried to duck the question.
Yeah.
Because I also believe
Duck that fucking question.
You better duck that fucking question.
I think Mistress and Sasha did a really great job giving an answer without getting anyone mad at them. Selena's answer definitely cut deep, and it's because she just felt hurt in that moment. And Lux then giving a whole thesis statement is one of the craziest, funniest moments that I've seen on the show. The way she delivers it, the way it's edited, it's on par with Tatiana's speech, with Alyssa's speech, just flat out iconic. Overall, it was an amazing episode of Drag Race, just not the best episode for specifically Lucy. Let Loose is going viral on Twitter and TikTok though, so it's honestly been a good week even though it wasn't the best week in the episode. I've heard from people who've worked with her, she's honestly really amazing, so don't let this edit fool you. With Anitra getting her second win for such an amazing performance, I think it fully solidified her spot even though I was already convinced before. I got comments from people saying they weren't fully convinced that Anitra or Mistress have earned their spot in top 4, and though I could still see Mistress going out right at the end here, she's been just so influential. Anitra has definitely earned her spot and her praise from Ru. Definitely gonna whip up a really quick video on the whole concept of Born to Do Drag and what RuPaul is saying with that, but yeah, I agree, Anitra is definitely born to do drag, and this episode was a great showcase. So I'm certain that she's gonna make top 4 along with Sasha, and I still think Mistress is in there. So again, down to Lux and Lucy, and with next week being a makeover, I don't know who's gonna go home. I think with the amount of negative critiques Lucy got in this episode, I feel like they're trying to set up her elimination next week. Just with how her storyline's going, if they wanted her to break out of the cycle, they wouldn't have buried her in the edit so much this week. Her win in the comedy challenge last week could have completely capped off her storyline of being too serious and always wanting to win, but then Michelle brought it up again this week, which signals to me that they're still keeping the storyline going, and I feel like at this point it's setting up an elimination instead of another win and making it to the top 4. Other predictions for next week, I feel like Mistress may take the win. Coming from old school pageant background, it's giving a lot of Jada on season 12. I think she's going to paint her makeover partner so well, and I think they're just going to be so elegant and she's going to be in the top. But I could also see her in the bottom trying to finish off the storyline between her and Lucy, but I could also see Lux there or even Sasha just to kind of shake it up right at the end. You honestly never know what's happening with makeovers, so we're just gonna have to wait and see. Oh, also, yeah, the lip sync happened. I have nothing to say about it, so that's why I didn't really talk about it here. And quickly, I just want to touch on what this episode means in the larger grand scheme of things. I've sat down and recorded a couple takes talking about the drag laws and the trans laws that have been being pushed out, but I just never really know how to exactly formulate everything. I just want to say that I'm here for the communities who are being affected by this situation. I'm donating, signing petitions, further educating myself myself, doing everything in my power to make sure I can help in this situation. And anyone who's watching this video who doesn't really know where to start, I'll link some things in the description for you. It's a fight that we're gonna have to continue to deal with. A lot of people in my generation, it's our first big fight that we've had. It's really disappointing that history is repeating itself, but just like with bad history, good history repeats itself too. If we stay unified and stay vocal, we got this. Fall back on friends and family for that support, and if you don't have support from them, just know there's people like me out there who are looking out for you. And lastly, coming from a mental health perspective, the situation is extremely draining. We need to continue to fight, but also make sure to take care of yourself. If you need to take a step back from everything in order to care for your health and well-being, do that. It looks dire, but just like in the past, we've come back stronger and more unified. We've got this. Thank you guys.